Hi, and welcome to Run Tall with Tim, the YouTube channel that's dedicated to all runners everywhere. I'm Tim, and I upload new videos every week. If you're new to the channel, I try to get new videos out on both Wednesday and Saturday, and that's at 5 a.m. Standard Eastern Time here in the US. And if you want to save yourself a little time, I tried to make that easy for you. If you open the description, there you're going to see where I've created some chapters. All you have to do is click on the timestamp for the part of the video that you want to watch, and it'll take you right there. On today's episode, I'm taking a look at the brand new shoe from Nike. It's their React Infinity Run Flyknit 2. Now, I didn't have a chance to run in the first version of this shoe, but I was really excited to try this one, mainly because Nike claims that this shoe will help reduce your risk of getting an overuse injury. And I'm pretty sensitive to that right now. I did manage to injure myself pretty severely, really, about mid-July of 2020. And here it is, January 2021, and I'm still kind of feeling the effects of that injury. So I'm still building up my volume from when I got injured several months ago. So if there's a shoe out there that can help reduce my risk of injury or re-injuring myself, obviously I just really wanted to try it. Really curious how it was going to feel underfoot. So we're going to talk about that. There are some things that I like about this shoe, and there are some things that I have some concerns about. And we'll get into all that in just a minute. But before we do that, let me show you what it looks like to run in these shoes. And then when we come back together, we'll talk about all that stuff and a whole lot more. Okay, so let's talk about these shoes. They cost $160 US, and that's a little pricey. $160 is a lot of money. It is what I would call a specialty shoe, and unfortunately, when you're buying specialty items like stability shoes, or in this case, Nike doesn't call it a stability shoe, but it certainly is a shoe that has a lot of the same features as a stability shoe does. And I think it provides a lot of motion control. So I'll stay away from calling it a stability shoe, but it certainly does have a lot of stabilizing features to it. And we're going to talk about all of those as we get to them. But $160, that's quite a bit of cash. For the weight of the shoe, now that's not terrible. For a men's size 9 on my scales, it came in at 9.7 ounces. And a lot of shoes that have these types of features come in over 10 ounces for me. So, I think that the weight of the shoe is, that's pretty solid, pretty decent weight, really. So let's zoom in and we'll talk about this upper because there is a lot to talk about. It's made of Nike's advanced Flyknit material. But they've got just a ton of stuff going on. You can see it's got some perforations up in the toe box, and it allows ample airflow. Now it was cold when I was out running. It was right around that freezing mark, and you may have noticed that the roads and the sidewalks had a bit of a shine to them, and that was just a thin layer of ice. So I had to really be pretty thoughtful in my foot strikes when I was hitting the ground, and when I chose to try to pick up the pace, and when I was just kind of bouncing off that ice, simply to stay safe. But as we look at that upper and we pan around to the side of the shoe, you can see that they really, they've got a ton of stuff going on here. So they've got their Nike swoosh, they got the Nike logo on the midsection of the shoe, and they do have lots of structure around in that heel counter area, and you'll notice, and we'll get to this in a second, but they've got this big heel clip that comes up along the side of the shoe as well, and you can see that as we pan around to the side of the shoe. So let's talk about the tongue of the shoe. Now this is really more of a booty construction, and I'm going to say that it's kind of a 3/4 booty, because the first half of that eyelet chain is really just one piece. It is a bit of a stretchy material, and then you can see where they've got it sewed in for another 1/4, and then at the top is really where the tongue itself is. And then this is one of the areas I was a little bit concerned when after I took the laces out and I was really examining the shoe, I noticed that right where that tongue is sewed on to that booty construction area. So as we look here, we can see that this part is, as I mentioned, just all one piece. It's like a solid structure across there. So, and then they've kind of got it sewed in a little bit, and then up at the top is where they have the tongue that just kind of flaps there, as I mentioned. But if you look, and I'll try to get a close-up view of it, but right where that tongue is sewed on there across, right where that starts, it kind of looks like that thread material is about ready to rip through. And at the time that I took the pictures for this video, the close-ups and so on, I hadn't even run in them yet. So it certainly wasn't as a result of any kind of wear. So that's one area that I'm concerned about, in terms of the durability. I'm just afraid that could easily tear or rip. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that, and we'll take a second look at it when I get 50 miles on these shoes to see if my fears were warranted or not. Now let's take a look. And that tongue, it's a bit stretchy, but it does have lots of padding. Now, I did find it to be really comfortable. I typically do like a booty style construction, and I have to say that this is a really comfortable shoe underfoot. As we look at the eyelet chain itself, now they've got Flywires here, and oh my goodness, you talk about being able to dial in and get a lockdown, secure feeling. This gives it to you. It felt terrific. I was able to get it cinched in exactly the way I wanted it to be, and that's kind of rare. I can generally get a pretty good lockdown feeling in most shoes, but this upper on these Flywires, I felt like I could really dial it in to fit me and my shape of my foot. So I really enjoyed that. It is a bit tricky, however, in just lacing the shoes up, because it's a bit different style lacing system. When it starts out, I feel like I'm almost kind of sewing some material, because you kind of got to poke it through and then poke it right back up and catch those Flywires and go across. So that part is a little bit unique, but hey, it works. So kudos to Nike, because that lockdown feeling across the midfoot is amazing, and it is super comfortable, at least in my opinion anyway. So let's look at the padding around the heel collar and the tab of the shoe. They got lots of padding here. For a shoe that still, for a men's size 9, comes in under 10 ounces, to have this much comfort is pretty remarkable, really. And they've got lots of padding around that heel collar and structure, really plenty to keep you feeling comfortable when you're out running. And my first run experience in this shoe was just a little over 7 miles. And it felt terrific right out of the box. I didn't really have any issues with the comfort or the fit, with one caveat, and I'll talk about that in just a second. And then as we kind of look around at that heel counter of the shoe, they got a lot of structure here, tons of structure. They've got, so if you're looking for some motion control in your heel, something that's going to give you some stability or a real stable feeling, they absolutely have it here. And in no small part, that clip that I mentioned a few seconds ago, that thing goes, that is huge. And that's really the one caveat about the fit of the upper that I had, is when I first put the shoes on, that plastic material comes so far up on the shoe here that I felt it when I first slid my foot into the shoe, and it was a little bit uncomfortable. So much so that I kind of thought to myself, is this a shoe that I really should be trying to run in? Because I was afraid that if I tried to run in it, that I might create a hot spot or some sore spots on the side of my foot, and I didn't want to, re-injure myself or do something that was going to put me back behind schedule as I'm trying to build back up my volume. But that fear was really unwarranted, at least at the time. So when I finally did take off, because that was just walking around the house, when I did put them on and started running in them, they kind of loosened up around that area, and I didn't feel that kind of digging into my foot like I did when I first initially put the shoe on. But a lot more testing to come. So that's certainly an area that I'm going to be keeping a real close eye on, and that's something I'm sure that we'll talk about again when I get to that 50-mile mark. So now let's talk about the midsole of the shoe. And this is a ton of React foam, and it feels terrific. I'm a big fan of React foam. They've got 33 millimeter stack height in the heel and 24 millimeters in the forefoot, so they have a 9 millimeter offset, and that was really comfortable. My gait felt smooth, lots of cushion. I could have easily taken this up a lot more miles on that first run without any issues at all, because it just felt really cushioned, soft, springy ride, really enjoyable. And as we talk about that, though, one thing I do want to mention is that, they do have, like I said, a lot of stability features. And a part of that is that motion control around the heel, that heel clip, that big long plastic heel clip that comes all the way up to past your midfoot on the shoe. That's a part of it. But also they've really built up that medial side. So there's a lot of arch support there. And if you have a taller arch in your foot, I think that's going to feel really comfortable. I happen to have a bit of a lower arch, so it was really noticeable to me. Now, I wasn't uncomfortable, but I could see where some people might be. So that's something just to consider. And, if you do choose to purchase these shoes, just make sure you got a good return policy in case that it doesn't meet your expectations. But that is one area that I'm also going to be looking at going forward, is just how comfortable or uncomfortable that arch might be as I log a lot more miles in these shoes. So now let's flip these shoes over, and here we can see another stability feature yet in these shoes, and that's that big, wide landing platform on the forefoot. And that is pretty wide. You can see just how wide that is. And they have a pretty narrow midfoot section of the shoe. And then they have a fairly decent sized landing platform, for the heel. They've got lots of blown rubber out there on that outsole to cover up all of that React foam. So I think that, the durability in terms of the midsole material and the outsole material, the shoe is definitely going to last. I think easily get, that 400 or 500 miles that you would expect to get on a high quality running shoe. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I certainly enjoyed making it for you. As always, run tall, run strong, be kind to one another. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.